Ho ho! Welcome back, guys. Been a quick second again. Um, I just came back from this event, building your brand 360, and I think it's a really great thing to do. It's something I've been working on as well. Obviously through this content, obviously through LinkedIn, and just in general, everything I've been doing has been building on each other. Um, and I had mentioned in the videos that I'm editing right now about execution, and all these videos are on YouTube. My raw edits, I guess I'm gonna try to edit them a little bit for short form. And within that, it's been about a week now. I have been executing on the app idea. It's coming together beautifully. Here's a little screen thing, and now I'm just refactoring my code because it was all just built, cursor, and then I'm throwing it in um, what is it called, Claude. I'm using Opus 4.5. That shit is really good. um, so I'm refactoring, getting it down nice and beautiful. I'm gonna try to get it on test flight and then maybe to the app store to be able to just share with everyone and hopefully be able to continuously build a story around that. Um, so obviously, what have I been doing this home week has been kind of interesting. I walked down through it a little bit, but where was I going with this? mm. So yes, I'm here today to chat about execution. Execution so far has been really fun. Um, so what did I do exactly this time around that was a little bit different than most times around that makes me feel very confident? Um, One, I actually was not worrying about like questioning what I was doing the whole way through because I knew exactly. I have a vision exactly just seated into my mind of what it should be. And the whole point of being a founder is that you're basically willing things into existence. And what it is a family tree app where you invite your family, your relatives, and they can invite other relatives within your family. And then overall, you can post stories and updates on each profile of your family. Essentially, crowdsourcing your family members. Both sides of my parents have 9 siblings. So obviously, I have a lot of cousins. I have a lot of second cousins because the age range is about 15 years from the oldest to youngest on both ends, basically. Um, and then from there, I have grandparents, obviously, that I know very little about because this is pre-digital age. So I'm just trying to crowdsource all of that together into like a family tree, family book. Um, and first step that I did was actually just create the front end. Here's a little mock-up. It's a little ugly, yeah. um, but alongside that, I put it on a framework called Expo. Expo has allowed me to be able to use Cursor very nicely because now it has libraries to pull from to allow usage of mobile things that are built in. So I was like, oh, I'm using Expo, do these things. Um, I started small incrementally. I allowed it to build upon itself slowly. I was like, let's add this one little box. This little box is going to be the person. And then I was like, okay, now we're going to add 3 little tabs. These 3 little tabs are going to do these things, but just make them a tab route right now. Um, and then I was essentially, I was like, okay, this person, there's actually multiple persons because we're going to add multiple different cards. And then I was like, okay, now these cards have relationships between each other. So I basically just built out a front end first, the user experience, the UI, the user interface, and then some logic as well within the state or within the phone's memory, right? Because typically apps are powered by a database, which is persistent memory, and nowadays it's in the cloud. Um, and that feeds into the front end, which is then auto populated because it puts all that information into kind of like some sort of logic of sorts, if you were to think about it, to like understand like, oh, it says it has two of this thing, okay, so now we'll display two of this thing. So having made the front end with all its stateful logic working, I then started moving into adding authentication and then also backend. Authentication usually requires, well, it depends what you're trying to do. I know email and password is one way to go about it. I've been trying never to use email and password. I have only ever used single sign-on, Google single sign-on. So I was trying to use Okta for a second. Okta not really working out. So then I was like, okay, whatever. I'll do finally Supabase. I had used and was trying to use Firebase, which is something that Google made, but there was some complications for some reason with Expo and React Native. So I was like, okay, whatever. We'll move over to Supabase, and honestly, it's kind of chill because I don't even have to like really do anything but make the database, and then somehow it works to get there. Somehow, I don't know. Like, okay, so from that, obviously, I had to make some like API calls. API calls are basically just like, oh, here's the thing I'm trying to do, please fetch me the data, or oh, here's a thing that I'm trying to do with changing the data, or oh, here's a deletion of the data. And you're calling it to the database, right? Remember that thing? So front end, database, sends things, but to send things back and forth, you need this API call. So I can give you like a small little graph here too. So I was doing that, and I finally have gotten it down. But all of that is just like very heavy and ugly code because it's hacked together. So now I'm throwing it on Claude to be able to refactor. Refactoring just means cleaning it up, making sure that it's like squeaky clean, privacy compliant, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, on Supabase itself, I'll show you a couple photos here too. You have to add the database or the tables within the database, and the tables between each other have to be able to be relational. So what that means is that, if there's one table here, the table needs to be talking or connected to this other table. So in my app, essentially there's a person that's in a family. So there's a relationship between these people. And then within that, there's like invitations within a person. So a person can invite someone to be another person within the app. And then how do I tell the distinction? The person has a relationship between this other person. So it gets a little complicated because relationships can be what you call recursive. So like, or like database tables can be recursive. But they can also just be one to many or many to many. So like one person only has one like government ID, SSN, right? That's a one-to-one relationship. But there could be a one-to-many relationship. One person could have like multiple phones or something. And then there's a recursive relationship sometimes where like one person can know another person, but technically speaking, because it's a person, then it's like within itself. I'll show a little diagram right here too, ERD. So I was working that out, and then, like I said, now I'm refactoring security, gonna add some compliance and privacy, and then hopefully I can get it up on something called TestFlight to check out development. You get a couple of my family members on there. Really make sure that it's working out fairly well. I also added something called telemetry using StatSig. What is telemetry? Essentially, if you want to be able to make logs about anything that a user does, to be able to ensure that everything is working properly is one, or people aren't getting lost in the user interface, like drop-off rates. Like if you want to be able to see like, oh, I realize that if I realize that 50% of people stop using it if this thing happens, or I realize that if people use it 3 days in a row, then they really, really continuously use it vigorously. So then as a person, as a product person, I would want to ensure that the people use it continuously 3 days in a row. And then I'll send like notifications, and then I'll like assess if that helps. Um, so telemetry allows me to make those insightful movements by capturing more data on usage. So I added that, and yeah, it's working. That was kind of interesting too. Um, so once I get it down in test flight for using it with my family a little bit, like a couple of members, I then want to be able to move it to the app store. um, and it'd be very interesting because I've like low key pitched it here and there, and I'm trying to still find the wording for it. I just say family tree, collaborative family tree, and then I started using the word what is the other word? Oh shoot. Uh, what is the word that Wikipedia uses? Crowdsourcing collaborative family tree. But then I feel like I'm just saying a bunch of buzzwords. But I don't know. It's been very fun. It's been very interesting because it's just like doing a thing, right? Um, and it's been fairly easy, I think. And then from there, I want to kind of continuously build more posts on it, more like stories, maybe a little bit of marketing, just a tiny bit, just to be able to see what that would feel like on my end, if I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy making these videos. I just don't like editing. So the first one that I post on YouTube is probably gonna be ugly as fuck. I'm not gonna add those templates that I said I was gonna add. Um, so sorry YouTube watchers. Um, but you heard it here first, basically. So you're in the know.